6 matchs en toute compétition. Attention, bien frappé, oh quel but! Balle ou table, magnifique! Balle ou table! Incroyable!
Left-footed this time. Oh my goodness, he's done it again. Christensen, he doesn't score tap-ins. He scores spectacular goals. And York United are still alive in the race for the CPL playoffs.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Newsroom. Christian Jack alongside Charlie O'Connor-Clark on another Tuesday night edition as we recap a brilliant week in the Canadian Premier League. Week 25 is literally just seconds ago in the books as full-time has just gone in Halifax as Halifax Wanderers 0, Pacific FC 2. We'll get into what that means in the playoff run shortly. And of course, it is match day. Canada played Uruguay earlier today in Slovakia. We'll have a roundtable later as we had last week where AGR, Alex Gangurusic will join us. Josh Cloak will be here as well. And of course, me and Charlie will analyze a lot of those things going forward in that game. But we just saw it, Charlie. Halifax 0, Pacific 2. Pacific with a result, boy, oh boy, they needed after they hadn't won for 7 weeks. They've been waiting since Thursday to get through the hurricane and the big storm Fiona there on the East Coast. Thankfully, everything is okay and they were able to play the game. But in a victory for Pacific, we'll get to the goals with Mitchell in a second. It eliminates Halifax Wanderers and York United from playoff contention. Just a tremendous victory for James Merriman. You could see what it meant to him after the match.
Yeah, you could. And it's a game that they desperately needed to win. And obviously, thank you to everybody behind the scenes that made sure that game went ahead, which was, obviously very difficult. But on the pitch, a really, really important one for Pacific to get the attack going, get 2 goals from strikers, which I don't think they'd done since mid-August. Well, at least forward attacking players. So that's huge for them. And just in general to put a little bit of space, capitalize on an opportunity here where a weekend where Valor lost, which hasn't been something that most teams in the CPL have done the last few weeks, is capitalize on other teams around them dropping points. So a really important one for Pacific, and I think one that'll give them a little bit of confidence that they were certainly starting to lose.
Yeah, certainly. Let's bring our man on the match, and that is Mitchell Tierney, our correspondent. He's going to go speak to the 2 coaches shortly, so we'll keep it brief, Mitch. But let's get to this first goal. A game that was obviously sodden on the pitch still. The weather was pretty miserable, but this was just a massive moment, was it not, for this team Pacific? You could see they were piling on the pressure, but in the end, Dos Santos to Daniels, it might have been a goal, the biggest goal of the season to turn their fortunes around.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, it came off their first shot or shot attempt of the entire game. So they'd had to be really patient in that first half to adapt to the conditions, to adapt to a Halifax side that hadn't allowed a goal in 3 matches coming into this one. So there was a lot of things, sort of going against them before they were able to open the scoring. But obviously a huge goal for them. And obviously the implications of this goal, huge for their season.
Yeah, massive implications. As you said, it gave them the confidence to get on and score a big goal. And Daniel's got the nod, right? We had no Bustos in this one. Was that a bit of a surprise for you, Mitchell, that James went without Marco Bustos? Not the first time he's put him on the bench, but in a pivotal match, he's key man on the bench.
I think so. Yeah, it was interesting that entire side. Kunle Dadaluk not starting either, so opted to fully switch things up. But we've seen this a few times from Merriman. Obviously, they needed a bit of a change within their lineup there and within the way things were going. So it sends a message, I think, to the entire side if you're going to take out a big player like that no one is safe within the lineup, and obviously it worked for them.
Now, what worked for... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just speaking of key men and big players in the Pacific lineup, I think we have to talk about Manny Aparicio, right? As we often do on this podcast, but he was back this time after, I guess, a false start the weekend before. You can't say enough about how important he is to this team, right, Mitchell?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in all aspects, he seemed to be right up for it. His teammates had to maybe calm him down a couple of times in the early going as well, as he got involved in a few more scuffles. But I do think Yeah, they need that intensity. Like I think it is incredibly important. So having Manny back is huge for them and a huge difference maker. You can see that on the second goal.
Manny Aparicio is big for Pacific. You know what's big for this show, guys? Stickers. This went down really well last week. Mitch, you've got your stickers this week before we you get some stickers for us, okay, on the show. So you want to come back later and open some, that'll be great. Before we let you go, though, let's break down this second goal. We talked about Aparicio and his involvement in this game. This is a quick turnover, and this is the counter-attack and more fun of Pacific that we got used to last year, where they could be ruthless and quick connections. And Aparicio's ball to the back post here for Hurd. That is a wonderful goal to see. And for Pacific fans, they've been waiting weeks for that kind of goal.
Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, like you said, this is Pacific at their best. And I wanted to, give credit to Dos Santos, who earned a couple free kick opportunities outside the box. Finally, this time doesn't get fouled and plays that initial ball through to Aparicio. And I think just there's the difference makers right there. And there's those offensive players that they've been waiting to click for a long time. And they finally do on this goal. It's brilliant football from start to finish. And it's the kind of goal they're capable of and the kind of goal they're going to obviously need to score more of in the next couple of games.
It's what makes him so special. There is no other Manny Aparicio close for Pacific. There are very few Manny Aparicios in the Canadian Premier League, if any. The intensity that he brings, how quickly he breaks out of midfield as well. Just a brilliant moment for him and fantastic to see him back. Mitch, I know you got to go talk to the coaches. Before you do, a word on Halifax. The season is done for them in terms of qualifying for the playoffs, but at least they got this game in. Maybe you can come back with a little bit of a report on their skipper as well, Andre Rampersad, who went off early in this game.
Yeah, obviously that's a difficult one for them, as something we've been tracking here at the Canadian Premier League. The fact that this was his 98th game, we were hoping he could become another Centurion before the end of the season, playing the final two. So I'll get an update on what his situation is. There have been positives, obviously, down the stretch for Halifax. Defensively, much better. A lot of those young players, Christian Campagna, I thought, excellent again today. He's a player that looks like a great signing for them. So there are some future pieces for them that could be really exciting, but obviously, it just hasn't been consistent enough for them all season. And it's no real surprise, I think, that they aren't in the playoff contention come the end of the season.
Lots of love in the chat live if you're with us for World Cup stickers. That's coming up. Manny Aparicio, lots of love for him. And don't worry, yes, Atletico Ottawa fans, we will be getting to your team very, very shortly. Mitchell, we'll let you go, my man. I know you've got one out on the screen. Your match report's already up. You're doing a great job. We'll speak to you again probably in around 45 minutes or so as we get you back to open some stickers and try and put together a big team again like you did last week.
Sounds good. Can't wait. I was going to open some stickers with Josh Hurd here right now. See what he thinks about that.
Let's do it. Let's see what Josh thinks. He'll be in a good mood. All right, we'll let you go. Thanks again, Mitchell Tierney. We'll take him out and we'll bring in our AGR as we get to our next game. And AGR was on location at York Lions Stadium on Friday. We were all there. Great to see you, Alex. Alex will, of course, join us later for our Canada Roundtable chat where we get Josh Cloak on. But before we get to that, let's recap York Lions Stadium, where we saw another come from behind win for the home team here, and the fifth victory, AGR, in the last 7 games. What impressed you the most about this team, the form team in the Canadian Premier League?
Yeah, it's the new look York United. The early season goal struggles have certainly been left behind. And you can thank, I guess, Mo Babuli for that. I mean, he was fantastic, as you're about to see on this goal here when Azaze Di Rosario picked him out, and then he just out of nothing, really. Up to that point, it was all Valor through 30 minutes, and they seemed to be well on track to getting a huge road result for them. Instead, some Mo Babuli magic kind of set the table for what would be all York from that point on. I mean, really, it has to be said how different York looks offensively. I mean, if we look at this Krasnovic Insa screamer again, he's shown some magic with his left boot as well in recent weeks. But it was a good performance from the home team, who, unfortunately, after today's result, as we know, are eliminated from the playoffs. But after some pretty dark times offensively, where they went a month without scoring a goal, they were struggling to score all season long. They've showed as of late that they've scored something like 3+ goals in the 5 or 6 of their last games, and they only did that twice in their first half of the season. So it's a new look York side, and it was fun to watch on Friday.
Yeah, boy, oh boy, they fun to watch, Charlie. We were both there and at one point just mesmerized by the quality of this team. You know, this is a team that's, by the way, they got 22 points now in their last 11 games. York, 22, Pacific have 20, Ottawa 19, Valor 17, Forge 15, Cavalry 13, Halifax 12, and Edmonton 7. The inspiration of Mo Babuli, Charlie, I guess we can ask the question, what if they'd got Mo to sign a little bit earlier? I don't think we would be saying York would be eliminated right now. But the contrast, Charlie, of seeing one player come in and take over a team is I think we haven't seen anybody else like this year in the CPL.
No, we haven't. And I think it's something that York really needed with the way that their attack had been working before Babuli came in, was they needed somebody to just kind of take it by the scruff of the neck and just run the show, right? Which is certainly what he's doing. And I think that this is actually a better place for him than Forge was, because again, Mo Babuli can sit in that. He likes that number 10 spot there behind Di Rosario at York, and he's able to be the guy. He's a star, and we've spoken about it before, but things run through him, whereas at Forge for Babuli, things had to run through other players first. They go through Kyle Becker before they got to him or something like that. He can go searching for the ball at York, and he can kind of create those plays, and it's just night and day just how entertaining and how much more creative this team is in the attacking third now compared to, you know, the first 2-3 months of the season.
So much fun. A great vibe, by the way, there at York Lions Stadium. We've got some tremendous feedback from fans, how young the audience were. We'll get to that again in a minute. AJ, have you got your stickers? You bring your stickers tonight? Yeah, of course it is. All right, buddy.
Ready.
Start to open your stickers. And while you open your stickers and find out who you get, let's go back to York Lions Stadium and hear from the man himself. Here's Mo Babuli.
I feel good. I think I have the freedom to explore different areas on the pitch. I think the adjustment is partially for me and partially for guys on the team, and I think we've both done that well. And just understanding that sometimes when I do drift out wide or drop deep, who's jumping into certain positions, and I think we have good moments in that, in understanding each other.
AJ, before you reveal your pack, what do you make of the tactical nuances of this York team in terms of Babuli's he hasn't got a free role, but he hasn't got a very direct role in terms of being far up the pitch. His ability to come in and construct some of those attacks. And what do you make of the way that Martin Nash has got him lined up?
Yeah, well, it's very multifaceted, and I think it's kind of what York was missing to tie everything together, because we've talked a lot about the defense. We knew what that was there. They had dynamic fullbacks who can get up the field, even with Diadine Abzi gone. We saw Paris G looked pretty good coming up down the left side there. And obviously Krasnovic, as we know, he is certainly not shy in going up the field as well. And there's midfielders as well who could get involved. Isaiah Johnston, whenever he's on the ball, I'm always super impressed by how composed he looks, just 20 as well. Wild to think how young he is. But it just kind of felt like there was a piece missing. You always felt like Di Rosario up front was always isolated. He didn't have a striker to play off of. Given that at one point he'd scored 60% of his team's goals, it was really easy to defend. You just take away Di Rosario, and it kind of felt like they took away the game. But the way Mo Babuli now is huge in so many aspects, just because he gives Di Rosario a bit of freedom, because you have to kind of hone in on Babuli, but then he plays off of Di Rosario so well, the way he finds the pockets and capitalizes on the space that having a number 9 frees up. And then in turn, it just kind of gives confidence to the wide players, because then all the attention draws into Babuli in the middle. And it just kind of created this chain effect where before the pieces you could kind of see were there, but you were wondering, like, why isn't it coming off? Like, it feels like this team is a little more talented than they look. And I think just Babuli, the way he's brought all those pieces together, especially Di Rosario, I think their partnership could be one where, if played over a full season, maybe they both get double-digit goals. Genuinely, that's how good it's looked over the last few weeks. Then it could really be what York was missing, because when they were at their best in the early season, they were defending well. It's just a lot of 0-0s, 1-0s. Those are the kind of games we needed a guy to make the difference, and Babuli was that guy, just a couple months too late, like we mentioned.
Yeah, that partnership next year, wow, that could be exciting. AJ, what do you got in your pack, mate?
Just looking through so far. Okay, I've got a good one in here. So to start, I've got, I'm dropping already, Abdullah Otaif from Saudi Arabia, team that drew the U.S. today. So
Charlie, you can open a pack while we wait for AGO as well. Buddy.
All right.
Now I got the star man. I don't think anyone's going to top this, because he is one of the best in the world. Sadio Mane.
Now
that's all-star quality.
That's high quality right there.
That's just phenomenal. got Calvin Phillips, good at solidity in the midfield.
I had him last week.
Progression.
Yeah.
Switzerland, cool, I guess. Team Switzerland picture. And then lastly, Takahiro Tomiyasu, got some Arsenal.
There you go.
Fullback there. So not a bad Premier League pack there in terms of.
That's true. Blue parallel there as well. Last week we put out together our 5-a-side teams with all these guys when they open the packs. AGR's got half of his team. Let's open his next pack. And in the meantime, let's hear from Martin Nash.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we started well, and obviously they got a goal early on a counter-attack, gave away a penalty, but I thought for the most part, I was really pleased with how we played. I thought we ended the half quite well. I thought the second half, we were excellent for most of the second half. So the players deserve a lot of credit for the mentality we talked about for the game, our mentality and attitude towards the game. I thought it was brilliant from the start, and it was a really good performance.
From them, what of Valor? That was really disappointing, I think, from them in a game that, boy, oh boy, they're in a playoff run right now. Before we hear from Phil DeSantos, AGO, what did you make of them? They take the lead in the game. Chibara gets the penalty. Suddenly you're thinking, here we go. They could be, pulling away from Pacific. And then the second half, just a disjointed affair. They didn't really get anywhere near York.
It was just surprising because they didn't necessarily really play the Valor way we've been used to, where they're compact defensively. And it was interesting because Phil Santos mentioned one thing that he didn't like from his team is that they let it turn into a track meet. York has speed, they have creativity down the flanks, whereas Valor, they're at their best when they get the game in front of them, and they're frustrating teams. And then they're the team that's getting in space, getting in transition, where it felt like York in the second half, every attack, they'd get behind the Valor wingbacks in the 3-5-2, and then they'd cause problems. Andy Baccaro. Brett Levi's got taken off injured at halftime, which is also a very underrated aspect of Valor's demise. They lost that solidity on the left side. So for Valor, it just felt like they turned the game into the track meet. And I think the big point, which was so surprising, was how much that Mo Babuli goal in the first half affected them, because like I mentioned, in the first 30 minutes, I thought it was all Valor. When they went up 1-0, the way they were playing, you're like, okay, this is going to be 1-0, 2-0. They're so good at seeing this over the line. And then to give credit to them, they defended the Babuli goal well. You watch it back. He has two defenders draped all over him. They close him down. It's just a moment of magic. And then after that, I don't know if they were so surprised that goal went in. It kind of just seemed to throw them off and rattle them to think that they had to get another goal. And then from there, it turned into a track meet. So a bit frustrating one for them after a strong start to finish the way they did.
It's been a tough few days for them now with Pacific winning this one as well. We'll get to the standings later, but Valor still with Cavalry away and Edmonton away to finish. Boy, that's going to look. This game this weekend is a massive one for them. AGR, before we let you go, to bring you back for the Canada Roundtable, let's complete your team. What do you got in your second pack?
So to start, we got Denzel Dumfries, star of last year's Euros.
Good team for you. Yeah.
We got Theo Hernandez, potential
my word.
This World Cup. We got all the fullbacks, Syria.
Here.
Got a goalkeeper at least. I don't know how big of a role he'll play. Frederick Ronvo. Back up to Kasper Schmeichel, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
Kiefer Moore.
Okay. Big number 9 up front.
Yeah. And then lastly, Alexander Jiku, center back, if I'm not mistaken, for Ghana. So decent little team.
AGR is going to go back to put his together. Charlie's going to open his 2 packs. We're going to get the results of that in a second. AGR will speak to you in about 15 minutes or so, and we'll get you back on for the Canada chat. In the meantime, we talked about Valor and a disappointment. Here's the thoughts of their boss, Phil DeSantos, after this one.
I felt that we didn't play in our characteristics. We had alerted the squad. And I showed them this afternoon. I felt that we didn't play in our characteristics. We had alerted the squad, and I showed them this afternoon how York is a team that likes to play in open spaces. It becomes a little bit of a transition game against them. They have pieces that like to attack you fast, and that opens space for us in transition, but afterwards, if we lose the ball fast again, it becomes a north-south game, and I didn't want to get into that. We didn't want to get into that because that's not who we are as a team. We're a team that needs to defend together and needs to attack together to be able to be effective in our game, and we didn't do that, and when we're out of our characteristics, we don't win games. And the team was alerted to that, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, Charlie, who you've got here? You got a good couple of packs here. We're gonna have to bring some more in like last week.
Yeah, it's better. It's better than last week. I've got
okay.
We'll start out. I think I've got 2 Leicester players.
So, 2 Leicester players for Mitchell.
Maybe I'll make some trades at Mitchell, but I've got Yuri Tielemans.
Okay, there you go.
Solid Belgian, and I got Yannick Vestergaard.
There you go.
So there's my defense. I actually have a striker this time. My first pack. I've got Timo Werner. Who's been in
phenomenal team so far.
A lot better form since he went back to Leipzig, so that's good.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
I've got Joe Morrell from Wales and Portsmouth. He might not end up in my 5-a-side team. Pau Torres as well, Spanish defender, which is just a class get. So I'm pretty happy with that pack.
Great left foot. Yeah.
Am I doing the other pack or
yeah, let's do the other pack if you've got it. In the meantime, let's play these Cavalry highlights on the weekend because we go there because we went to this. What a match this was. First versus second, the winner with the chance to become the first team to clinch a spot in the postseason. And I should just stop talking because look at that goal if you're watching us live. No words will do it justice. It is the goal of the season, no doubt. Sorry, Toby Wojciechowski. Balou Tabla takes the honor. Just an incredible goal. And Balou heavily involved again the second goal after a uncharacteristic mistake by Krifa Yao. Bassett to right, and the sucker punch was there. The classic counter-attack from the counter-attack masters themselves, Atletico Ottawa, to make it 2. At the other end, Escalante would score a penalty after Miguel Acosta's only mistake of the game, where he gave up a penalty, a spot kick there with the foul on Ali Musi. Escalante would step up and score to make it 2-1. But this was a day for Atletico Ottawa with the most away wins in the season so far. It turned out, again, the boys from the capital were able to deliver. Even though Escalante was able to score, Charlie, they went and found a third, and what an away performance it was.
Yeah, and it's in many ways quite similar to the last time they went to Calgary, except we didn't have to wait an hour for them to come back out after halftime because there was no storm this time. So that was much appreciated. Thank you to the weather for that. But it was quite a similar story and a similar kind of emotion from both managers after the match. You know, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. was fairly nonplussed after this one. Again, Cavalry had a lot of shots in this game, a lot of possession, but maybe not as much purpose to that possession as Atletico Ottawa had. Yeah. And the quality shows through when you have players like Balou Tabla in your team. You're gonna come out with some of those kinds of goals in a season, and you know, you can defend well and all that, but you know, if you give a little bit of space to a player like that, with I think more on the Brian Wright goal, I'm thinking they're going to punish you. Like there's not really a lot of ways you can defend the first one. That's just, you know, a class goal, and Cavalry scored a goal to cancel it out. But then the other two are kind of where the difference is. And you know, again, just remarkable story for Atletico Ottawa this season, just how much more organized they are, how much more kind of determination there is on the ball, and just how special this run has been for them who are now, you know, headed for the playoffs and definitely have designs on going quite deep in those playoffs.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I think that's a good point you made there, because I think many people expected them to not be the same team as last year. Many people expected them to be in the conversation to get into the playoffs. I don't think anyone's shocked they've made the playoffs this year. No. It is a very good, very well-run organization. They've got financial commitment. They know what they're doing. They've scouted well. It's an older team. There's a lot of things where they had to get it right this year. I think the biggest surprise is that now they look like a contender to win it all. It was one thing to get in the playoffs. Now you could make, no one's going to say it yet, but you could make a case that they're the favorites based on the way that they're playing right now to win the whole thing. You know, 25 points away from home. You know, they've lost 2 games all year. They've been to Cavalry, the best team at home, and they've won twice and scored 6 goals in 2 games. With more on that and the accomplishment of making it to the playoffs, here's their head coach, Carlos Gonzalez.
It's a milestone for the club, so I am very proud and very honored to be part of the team that we've been working since 7 months ago to conquer this challenge for the first time in history. I think this is so important for the club. They have been fighting, having tough seasons before, and I think that everybody deserves this. The players, people from Madrid that has worked really hard in these years, and of course the fans that today we don't have them here, but they were pushing all the season, and all the city has been giving us the backup. So we are very proud and happy for them.
Yeah, as they should be. What a story. And as usual, Atletico Ottawa fans lively in our chat tonight. I love to see it. Shout out to Arthur, Thomas, Alex, many of you guys out there. Thanks for supporting us as well. I know you love your CPL chat and also your World Cup stickers. And we're going to get Charlie's results of his second pack shortly. But in the meantime, let's go back to Atco Field in Calgary and hear the thoughts of Cavalry head coach Tommy Wheeldon Jr.
That was a sucker punch, to be honest, because we knew that we had a game plan. We had the dress rehearsal of how they played against us last time. We said they would come out and do the same because it worked for them. We had the prep out there on the pitch 3-4 times a week. We did drill after drill about defending the transition, about beating the low block. But we've got to take all that and put it out on the pitch. When they score a goal like the way they did, it just hungers them in. We've got to defend better, we've got to attack better. It's on us, so we own it. I own it. I made the decisions to play the way we did, and that's what you got to do. Own it and move on.
Every credit. Balu's goal, Charlie. I think Tommy alluded to the fact that was, as he said, a sucker punch. That was a difficult goal to get over. Yeah. And I think he admits afterwards that the team wasn't good enough, which I think is pretty honest, and I think he was right. But to concede a goal like that, no coach would ever imagine that that's going to happen. Just your thoughts when that went in, the magnitude of that. I said on Ottawa radio this week that in 50 years of the Canadian Premier League in the future, they're going to look back and go, that's one of the greatest goals scored in CPL history, let alone this year.
Yeah. And it's one of those goals that is just special, no matter what. It's not, sometimes you see goals, highlight reel goals where players dancing around a few defenders and things. You can say, all right, maybe it's the level, there's a discrepancy in quality. But when you just get on your bike and hit a ball like that, you can do that on any pitch in the world. And if it goes in, it's a special goal, right? And just seeing a ball kind of come in like that and go off the woodwork and into the net in a game that matters a whole lot to both teams is just an unbelievable moment. And it's definitely one that we're going to remember for a very long time. And I know we talk a lot about how many unbelievable goals there have been in the league this year, but that one for me as well is well above even all of those.
Yeah, no doubt. Apologies to Thomas. Apparently he's a York United fan. I did actually know that, but he was giving love to Atletico Ottawa in the chat. So, hey, football brings everyone together. York United fans giving love to Atletico Ottawa fans. This is wonderful. What do you got in your second pack before we move on to the final game of our chat?
All right, this one's okay. It's not quite the same as the last one. I've got Gregor Krychowiak from Poland.
Okay, yeah,
nice. Which is all right. Got a little more midfield here. I've got another midfielder, Ghana and Mallorca midfielder Idris Ubaba.
Yes.
All right.
You got a good team here.
Player.
I think
It's getting
your
pretty
five-a-side team this week's going to be better than last week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've got a stadium.
Are you picking these off the floor? By the way,
I just dropped one off the floor as we were speaking. I've got a stadium. I don't.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's finished.
Yeah. Maybe we can play in that stadium. I don't know. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Jason Denier from Belgium.
Okay.
I think that's my third Belgian. No, it's my second today. I had a bunch last week too.
You did, yeah.
And then I've got a goalkeeper.
Oh, finally. There you go. Finally.
And I've got Ter Stegen.
Oh my goodness me.
So it's hard to do much better than that.
AGR is disgusted now. He's got a test on his hands for the five-a-side team at the end of this one.
I might actually be competitive this week. So
you might be.
That is good.
Talking of competitive, what about FC Edmonton? Let's bring in Benedict Rhodes. So every time he has an Edmonton game, I feel like they shine for him. Benny, great to see you. This is last but no by means least of the game. It was a sole matchup on Sunday. Edmonton's, you think that playing Forge, no disrespect, it's going to be a big test for them. But I thought they were probably the better team here. We see Terran Campbell score with an opening goal with a deflection. What about Edmonton and the reaction here? Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think Edmonton maybe were the better team in this game. On the whole, Forge, for example, after the game, Bobby Smith talked about how they needed to be better. They needed to, they weren't good enough in this game. And you see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, the goal was, for lack of a better word, a fluke. And Terry Campbell admitted himself it was a cross, not a shot. And he said Edmonton immediately reacted. They don't fear anybody. Alan Koch doesn't want. He hates when you say they're playing with no pressure because that's not true. But what he does say is, this team's going to give their all every single game. They're not afraid of playing anybody in this league, and all season long for the most part they've been competitive and they've been going head to head with some top teams in this league.
They certainly have. And every credit. I thought when Campbell scored, many of us thought that, okay, it was going to be another one of those where FC Edmonton get a decent performance and every credit, but nothing out of it. But they're able to fight back. I know Singh gets the red card late in the game. That's his second of the year. But they're able to stick in with this one as well. CJ Smith with goals in back-to-back games for him with FC Edmonton. And they get the point. We're going to get to Forge in a second before we get to counter chat because there's a lot to discuss about Forge. But before we do that, let's put a bow on FC Edmonton and hear from their goal scorer, CJ Smith.
Honestly, just smiles. It's always nice to see that your coach sees that you're working hard and you're trying to become better every day. So, I don't have much to say. It's just, he sees me working and it's humbling and it just goes to show that you work hard and you get rewarded, and maybe that's how I scored my goal today.
Benny, you got your World Cup stickers?
I sure do.
Of course he does. All right, you open a pack while I ask Charlie your level of concern for Forge. 7 goals in the last 9 games. Choinière, Borges, Pasillas, and Campbell all started for just the second game of the season together. That didn't necessarily work.
Right.
Bobby, who usually has got a lot of the answers, seemed a little bit forlorn at the end of this game a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about Forge, I think, but increasingly I am. Like, this is just a team that's something's not quite there. There have been times this season where they've been playing just unbelievably fluid football and everything seems to be going right and they're clicking and the attacking third is good. But it feels like there's just a lot of moving pieces in this team at the moment that aren't necessarily falling into place at the same time. Again, they're still not finding whatever that best front three is. There's just like 6 or 7 players that they need to try and find 3 of to play together, and it just hasn't happened yet, which is starting to become concerning as we get right into the end of the season here. And then just other parts of the pitch where usually they're so stable and steady are for both internal and external reasons. They're not as strong as they usually are. Obviously not having Kyle Becker there for these games and these last few games of the season is a really big problem for this team. And that's, the consequences of what happened in that Cavalry game. Noah Jensen has actually been quite good, I think, for the most part in that understudy role, to be fair. But again, like in this game, we see Daniel Kritzen not able to play because of that knock to the head he took the week before at Pacific. So hopefully he's all right and he's able to come back soon, because I think that's another concern for this team. And even Alex Janssen playing through what sounds like a fractured hand, I think Bobby said. So just there's just a lot of things with this team that aren't quite as smooth as they usually are, because usually this is a team that isn't fazed by things, that isn't, doesn't really use excuses or doesn't even have to make excuses, because they find a way through pretty much every issue that faces them. But things are just all kind of coming together and converging at this one time for Forge that they're in a little bit of trouble. I don't think they'll have trouble making the playoffs.
No.
By any means. But once they get into those playoffs, you need to be on your game and you need to be absolutely sharp in that 2-legged series. So not a lot of time left for this team to figure that out.
They've got to figure it out quick. As you mentioned, they've had a lot of injury blows, a lot of, Jabrapor suspended as well. So they just can't find that rhythm at the moment. Benedict, did you find rhythm in your pack? What have you got, mate? Let me see your stars.
I also got a stadium.
Okay. Toss that aside. Put that on the floor like Charlie did. Yeah.
I've got Abdullah Madu, Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Wataru Endo from Japan. We'll be playing Canada pretty soon.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia, by the way, today, good performance.
USA, terrible performance.
Yeah. Just ask Americans. Go ahead, Benny.
I got Dennis Zakaria from Switzerland.
He's a good player. Yeah.
All right.
And this is going to be the cornerstone of my team. Is Eden Hazard from Belgium.
Oh,
I feel like we get a lot of Belgium stickers on this show.
A lot of Belgians on this show.
Yeah. Benny, go open your next pack, and we're going to listen to Bobby Smirniotis after this one. And don't get any more Belgian players. All right, here we go.
First half, we've created a lot of opportunities to score. Unfortunately, we haven't taken advantage of them. And, you got to be able to do that in these games. That fundamentally usually changes the way things go. We wanted an earlier goal. In the first half, we've created those opportunities. A little bit unlucky off the mark there. The second half, I thought we needed to be better. We lacked a little bit of urgency in our play. We get a goal that comes from nothing. Sometimes that happens in a game when you've missed some other clear-cut opportunities, and then we just need to be better after that. Bottom line, we need to be better.
Bottom line, need to be better. Very strong words from Bobby Smirniotis, and they'll need that this weekend as they get ready for 3 home games in a row. York, Pacific, and Halifax to finish the season off. Finishing off packs, let's see. Did you get any more Belgians, Ben?
No more Belgium.
Okay, thank goodness.
I got Philip Kostic.
Okay.
That player.
Yeah.
That's a good player. Yeah.
Andre Frank, Zambo, and Guisa. Good name.
Nice.
Great name on the sticker there.
Yeah. Lower that font.
Mohammed Al-Buriak, again from Saudi Arabia.
Okay. You're not going to be happy with your team, are you? You're going to demand to open another pack. I can feel it in your voice. Okay, let's see.
I got Seung-Gyu Kim from South Korea.
Okay, there you go. No Canadians tonight. Mitchell will pull a Canadian.
Nobody's
later.
had a Canadian,
He always
right?
does. Yeah.
And the last player going straight into my team as well is Kingsley Coman.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, you're not opening any more packs.
You've got an attack.
There you go. All right, Benedict's going to go put together his 5-a-side team. In the meantime, let's take a look at the current CPL standings. Obviously, if you just joined us at the top of the show, Pacific are now up to 40 points. That has eliminated York United in 6th and Halifax Wanderers 7 as well. They're done. Valor and Pacific battling probably with Cavalry and Forge for that last spot. Obviously, Atletico Ottawa in the playoffs as well. They are very tight standings, but it's now down to 5-4. And as we get ready to look on the games next week, a reminder, you can always catch the CPL Predictor. CPL Predictor brought to you by Come On, Just Go On and select the scores. And it's a tight turnaround for Pacific on Friday. They host FC Edmonton. And if they get a victory, then boy, oh boy, suddenly their playoff hopes are looking very, very good. Halifax return again with a final home game of the season against Atletico Ottawa on Saturday. Forge take on York United on Saturday as well. And then on Sunday, I think that's the come on match of the week. Yes, it is. Cavalry take on Valor in the come on match of the week. And by then, Charlie, Valor are going to know what they're going to have to do. They've gone before a lot of these teams every weekend. Now they go last, and it's a chance for Pacific to put the pressure on them as well.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know who is under more pressure there in that kind of that flipped situation, but Valor, they're going to look at it as a must win. They're going to look at that as their playoff game, as they probably have said they have their last 3 games, but that one 100% is a playoff game for them, really.
Yes.
I think they beat Cavalry in Winnipeg last time, but they've also had some pretty heavy defeats to them in Calgary over the years. So that's going to be a difficult one. I think that you'd expect them to respond a lot better after Friday night. So you hope to see Brett Levi's back for them because he's a massive player. I don't know how I feel about it, though. I think both teams will be very hungry. I think I could see a Valor win, though, on the road.
Wow, they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to win. I think Pacific are on a bit of momentum now, and you'll fancy them against Edmonton at Starlight on Friday night. All right, that is the Canadian Premier League side. The show. We'll bring in Mitchell later. You can recap on what some of the press conferences was going on tonight in Halifax. But let's bring back AGR and let's bring in our special guest, Josh Cloak, as we get ready for our Canadian men's national team roundtable. Welcome back, AGR. Got some competition on your 5-a-side team. Sorry, Josh, we didn't get stickers to you tonight. We'll have to do that next time, mate.
I wish I would have known. I've got my album right here. I open packs when I do have a spare moment here and there. But the first kind of, I found a sports store in beautiful Hamilton and grabbed 20 packs. And I thought that would last me a few days, and it lasted me about an hour and a half. So yeah, I wish I would have known.
Just to start, my friend, with your little boy. He's going to love it. Soccercards.ca in Guelph, a good place to get your stickers as well. You don't have stickers to open up right now, but we have books to talk about. This beauty right here. This is Josh's newest baby, The Voyages. I just picked this up from Josh about a day ago, and I'm honestly 3/4 of the way through. It is a must read. Josh, before we get into the roundtable today, tell people where and when they can get this brilliant book.
Yeah, the book's likely for sale now. The official release date is October 4th, but you could probably find it now. And I just like to tell people, you can buy the book anywhere you buy books, but give your local bookstore downtown a call. If they don't have the book, they'll be able to order it for you. But if you're the type to get your books at big box stores, it's definitely available there. And, you know, we've talked about this, KJ. My hope is that for Canadians who are kind of learning about this team, interested about this team, and interested in how this team went from an afterthought in Canadian, you know, popular consciousness to where they are now, which is, you know, they're genuinely going to dominate headlines come November. Hopefully this book allows them to learn a little something and learn about the rise of this team and all the people kind of behind the scenes that contributed to that rise, right?
Yeah, you definitely will. I'll get to these gentlemen in a second, waiting patiently to chat. But that was my favorite part. I haven't got all the way through it yet, but trust me, you don't start this book at the very beginning of the World Cup qualifying. You don't start this book right away with games against Mexico or Haiti or US. This starts where it should start, and the people who deserve the love get the love and talk about it. And it's not all, rose-tinted glasses either. There's pain there. There's lots of stuff. How important was that, Josh, to tell that story and speak to some of those former players that have been through the problems that has allowed some of these new players to succeed?
Yeah, it was vital because I don't think Canada would be here without those people that really kind of laid the groundwork, laid the pipeline. I think when people think about this men's national team, they think of John Herdman, they think of Alphonso Davies, which is all well and good and justified. But there are so many people that did their part, sometimes in small increments, to get this men's team to where they are. And I'm talking about the likes of Craig Forrest, who I think Canadian soccer fans know and rightfully put up on a pedestal. But maybe what they don't know is how often Craig answered the call for Canada when he perhaps shouldn't have, and how much he put his club career and moves to, you know, a big club like Chelsea at risk to go play for Canada. I think for a long time, Canadian players didn't show up for Canada. And I think Craig was one of the people that kind of broke down the wall in that regard. And obviously someone that I'm sure you guys talk about a lot on the show, Stephen Hart. I think for so long, the Canadian men's national team was defined by their physicality, their defensiveness, and kind of a very old school British style of play, and that they would lump the ball forward, hope for a set piece goal. But what I found both through my research and from talking to people in and around the national team is that when Stephen Hart takes over, the men's national team finally learns to embody the multiculturalism, the diversity that is so prevalent in Canadian soccer at the time. And he allows players the freedom to just play, use offensive flair in a way they didn't before. And I think that, again, laid kind of the groundwork for this team that you see now, right? Atiba Hutchinson was on those great teams with Stephen Hart in 2007. And that was a real turning point in that 2007 Gold Cup team, because they moved from a very kind of stodgy, serious physical defense.
Oh, we lost Josh.
It's just getting good.
That relies on their tactical quality.
Sorry, Josh, we just lost you there. It was a little bit of. Thankfully, you came right back, but I think we got the point. You're right, though. It's a great point about Stephen Hart, and there's some great stories in the book, and of course about the hero to many of us, Greg Forrest, who's just tells some great stories and is just a brilliant storyteller himself. And Josh certainly helps that. A great line there in terms of when they were playing in I think a Gold Cup or something, and Harry Redknapp's on the phone. So you're still winning these games? It's just like, get back here. There's some brilliant stories there. But yeah, anyway, it's a complete page turner, The Voyagers by Joshua Cloak. We're going to get to a couple more things later with some events he's got coming this weekend. But gentlemen, let's break down today. Charlie, you were on it for CanPL.ca. I was on the broadcast for One Soccer. AGR on it for One Soccer. And of course, Josh for The Athletic. All eyes were on this match. In the end, it ended up Uruguay 2, Canada 0. In the end, I don't think John Herdman wants any of us to take too much positives from it, because he was a bit of a dejected character afterwards as well. But AGR, those of us that aren't trying to figure out how to win games at the World Cup inside that locker room and buoy those characters up, was there a lot for us to take from this? What did you think?
I mean, it was a good chance to test against a sort of, top 15 nation that you probably haven't really, you can't really say that you faced before. Because again, maybe on paper, Mexico and the US, top 15 nations by FIFA rankings, but you've played them enough. And, we've seen recent form, obviously CONCACAF going to CONMEBOL, UEFA, it's a whole different animal. So I think it was just good to kind of go out there and get a taste of that. So for Canada, it was a good test of, okay, how can you impose your systems? How can you play? How can you, tactically adjust to these sorts of teams? You can take away that sort of stuff. I mean, in terms of what we learned, there were still some growing pains, evidently. I think, Canada was a little more nervous than I thought they would be. I thought I was a bit surprised by that, just given that typically they've responded to even bigger occasions. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just a friendly, but you could tell they're a bit nervous. They didn't maybe trust their instincts at times, but also they showed a lot of good moments too on the flip side when they did grow and did show their mettle. And that was kind of what you're looking for. Can they play their system? Can they play their way, even if they're playing top teams in the world?
Yeah, I agree with that. Charlie, what about you? I mean, I know you covered it pretty much for your analysis as well, but there was a lot to like, in terms of how they came back into the game, how they played through the press, how they kind of stuck to their own identity in this game, despite being 2-0 down.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting dynamic in the game. I think a lot of people expected Canada to have to play without the ball a lot more in this game, just by virtue of playing, a higher quality opponent. Although Uruguay under Diego Alonso haven't necessarily possessed the ball all that much. I think their last 4 World Cup qualifiers under him, they averaged like 47%. So that's not necessarily out of character for this team, but it did seem a little bit like Canada were maybe at least at times surprised by how much of the ball they had, and they had to kind of try and break down Uruguay and didn't have maybe as much of the transition kind of moments as they had against, like, for instance, the United States in those 2 games. And I think that might have been by design from Uruguay. But we saw a lot of things from Canada that were impressive. We saw Alphonso Davies trying to go looking for the ball and try to link up with either Stephen Eustachio or send it out wide to Sam Adekubi, which I think was probably the brightest part of the pitch for Canada. Obviously, I think we're going to talk about Ismail Kone in more detail because he was a huge bright spot for this team. But we saw a lot of, as you said, Christian, things that are part of this Canadian team's identity, which maybe I wasn't expecting to see in a game like this, right? Against some very, very difficult players, against, some of the best midfielders in the world. I think Stephen Eustachio looked like Stephen Eustachio against, a midfield that features Fede Valverde and Rodrigo Bentancur, who are both exceptional in this game. So I think there's a lot of positives in that. And as Alex mentioned, the biggest positive is just that they've now kind of had this little taste of it, right? Because it's one thing to look at film or to talk about how difficult it is to play against world-class players, but it's a completely different thing to be on the pitch with them and have them punish you. And now, Alistair Johnston will have that Darwin Núñez goal in the back of his mind when he's on the pitch against Romelu Lukaku, right? He'll remember what that was like, and he'll be able to think about it and have that reference point to know that it's a concern that Canada can now address going into the games that will actually matter, right?
Yeah, someday when he doesn't actually have to worry about getting home or playing in the MLS playoffs or World Cup, I want Alistair Johnston, maybe over a pint, a big Man United fan, to tell me what that felt like to have Darwin Núñez go over the top and head that ball past him. I'm sure that was a bit of a kick in the teeth. Josh, you're one of the best storytellers in this country, so I'm going to put this to you, my friend. We now know, do we not, that Canada are going to go out all guns blazing at the World Cup no matter what. Right? Like, we're not going to suddenly go to Qatar and play Belgium and suddenly they're going to go defensively deep and they're going to remove one of those key attackers. I think it's out, right? The identity's out. It's not a secret anymore. I think we know. We all wondered, are they going to play David, Davies, and Larin together and maybe a Hoylett and a Buchanan? It looks like they're going to play these guys. And if that's the case, should we as a nation or maybe non-soccer people be prepared that maybe in one of these games they could get smashed? I ask you that because it is a potential possibility, right? But the fact that they're not worried about that is, I think, a key story. Do you know where I'm going?
The expectations surrounding this team can go anywhere from 0 to 100 right now, because there's a world in which Canada could show up and lose all 3 games. And I think we saw that a little bit today, right? Just the gap between the very good CONCACAF teams, Mexico and the United States, and the teams that they're going to play. That gap is really, really big. And if you make the smallest mistakes, we're talking about Alistair Johnston, the smallest mistakes will allow Canada to get punished. So there's a world in which that could happen. But in terms of what I took away from the match today, I saw a Canadian team that played confidently for 90 minutes. So to me, there's also a world in which Canada can run a team like Croatia into the ground. And this is kind of the line of thinking that I've been working with. Their schedule lines up so well for them at the World Cup. Belgium, okay, whatever happens, happens. And it's great that you kind of go to the World Cup, you get that one out of the way, and maybe that's the game that you get smashed. But the expectations can be low in your first game anyway. Maybe a bit of squad rotation, you go in against Croatia and you have an opportunity there to, if you play the way you did today, which is you press actively, you stay, with your game plan, there's a world in which you can run Croatia into the ground for 90 minutes and find a draw. That sets up really well for a must-win game against Morocco in your last game. And I think, again, KJ, you're right. There's a world in which they can get blown out, but there's also a world in which, Canada can bet on their talent. And for me, in a tournament, surrounding tournament situation, I'm always going to bet on talent. We've seen that Alphonso Davies can take over games, right, for Canada. If he can take over that game against Morocco, there's a world in which perhaps they can beat Morocco, and then you're at 4 points you can go through. So the expectations, I think that's what's going to make this Canadian team so entertaining to watch, is that they can show up, they can get one goal, lose all 3 matches, but people can still say, well, I remember when Canada scored their first goal, and that's great, right? But then there's a world in which they could surprise a lot of people. And look, that makes for great stories too.
It makes for great stories. I'm totally with you. I just think that, and maybe all of us need to play a role in this, is that they are going to go there and stick to their identity. Win, lose, or draw. This is the best version of themselves going forward now. And this is not a team that is going to accept John Herb and his coaching staff saying, we're playing two teams who made the semifinals of the last World Cup, guys. We have to change our identity. We're going to pack the midfield. We're going to play one up front, and we're going to bunker in, and Davies, you're playing fullback. They are not going to do that. And these players are clearly, I think, have got what they want out of John, and they said, no, we don't want to do that either. And so I think as a nation, we have to be prepared to say, okay, they're going to go out there to try and win these games and hope that works out well in their form. And I think we have to be prepared to go, okay, if they're going to do that, then we applaud them both ways, right? If they're going to do that and get the win, AGR, then that's a great thing. But we have to also say, okay, then against Croatia, you may struggle. I think you might struggle against them more than Belgium personally, but against these teams of high quality, as we saw today, there's a chance that it could go the other way, rather than try and bunker in, for example, and play 10 men behind the ball and get a 0-0. That's not the kind of the storyline that's going to be told here. And I think maybe that's a positive. What do you think?
That's going to be interesting to see how they respond. I think what's clear now is after this game, though, like you mentioned, they're going to go for it. And I think that's good, because if you're Canada, it's just a matter of that. It's almost like you can see on the field, it's going to be a switch. Like you can tell that it's no longer necessarily a question of, can Canada play with these guys? I think you see enough in flashes where Canada can go out and play. It's funny, though, you can see it in the game. I remember there's a moment today where someone had the ball, it might have been Kamal Miller. You look in the pocket and someone's wide open, but Federico Valverde's standing beside him. So you hesitate. You're like, okay, I don't want to make that pass. It's going to be a matter of, okay, in big games, it doesn't matter who's there. If you want to be the best teams, you have to make that pass to, I want to say it was Eustáquio, and trust that Eustáquio is going to turn off and he's going to be able to play, because he can do that. He's shown that he's gone against Atletico Madrid. He's gone against Bruges. He's done it, at a high level. And I think for Canada, the talent's there. It's going to be finding that switch and just learning at the World Cup that also on the flip side, like you mentioned, defensively, if you're Alistair Johnston, you slip a bit at the back post, and a striker gets to the back post, it might not end up in the net. You slip and Darwin Núñez is on your left shoulder, right, the ball is going to end up in the back net as well. It's kind of a flip side of learning that, okay, Canada, they're going to go out their way. And I think it's going to be huge just because, like you mentioned, if you go in there with a bit of fear, if you go in with okay, we're just going to try to limit everything in a 5-4-1 and hope things will end up all right. I mean, if you're talking about building for 2026, that confidence, I think, is going to be the big difference maker, because as you mentioned, the talent's starting to be there. I think as guys like Kone's, the Millers, the guys we're not even talking about, the 16-year-olds out there who are going to make moves to Europe one day, the talent's going to really start to be there. It's a question of, can they have that mentality? And it's a good point that these sorts of games are going to teach them those, moments of when to be confident, but also the value of making, what mistakes will look like, what to do in certain areas of the pitch.
The reason, and sorry to jump in here, but the reason that I think, I would feel confident in this Canadian team going for it, as you said, KJ, is so many of these Canadian players know, and players have told me this, they know that going to the World Cup is an opportunity to get in the shop window in a way they never have previously. Like if you go up and down this roster, how many players could move in the winter transfer window with a few good performances at the World Cup? Alistair Johnston, Kamal Miller, right? Ismail Kone, key players for Canada. So if you want to go for it, you have to kind of bet on yourself. And I know that's a cliche, but I think Canada has put themselves, a lot of Canadian players have put themselves in a very good position to kind of understand, I have to kind of put my foot to the gas in the World Cup, because in a lot of ways, my future as a professional player depends on it. I might not get to go to a World Cup again. I might not to be exposed to the rest of the football world in this way again. So I have to bet on myself, and I do have to go for it, because nothing stands out in terms of, getting the attention of scouts like players who go for it, who play without fear. And I think we mentioned it before. I think that's why Ismail Kone has basically jumped from a possibility on the squad to a lock on the squad, because here's a 20-year-old that doesn't play with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Here's a player that plays on instinct and looks so composed in doing so. And I think there's a very good reason why after the World Cup, his stock is going to rise even more, and he's going to become a very kind of desired commodity. So I think in terms of KJ, your idea that they should just go for it and that's the best way to go about it, I think it fits this team, because a lot of them know that their kind of trajectory is on an upwards kind of climb right now, and it's the best time to continue that climb at the World Cup.
Yeah, another great point. But the other dynamic to this is that John Herdman is thinking about that too, or his job is to win games, right? Sure. But he still wants to put those players in the best places, the best case scenario, and think that we need to show the best version of ourselves. And I still think that is one of the most underrated storylines that's happening right now, from the end of World Cup qualifying to now. And again, it will be proven right or wrong, but this is us. We are playing David. We are playing Davies. We are playing Laren. We are playing fullbacks going up Lareiro, and this is the way we're playing. And like you said, the players will want to play that way anyway, because that's how they're used to playing. That's the best version of themselves. They're not bunkering in, so scouts will see them. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic. It brings us to a question, probably the last one we've got here for the time, from Arthur in the chat. Playing Alphonso Davies, he says, a little deeper in that left side number 10 pocket. Do we lose his speed and ability to stretch back lines? Well, the answer to that clearly is yes, because you don't get what you get when you play him deeper. I've always been a proponent of wanting him to see him play deeper. I personally would love to see him playing in Sam Adekubi's position in this thing. I know him in the minority, and I know he's not going to play there. John Herdman has said publicly and privately to many of us, Alphonso Davies' wish is to play in the final third for Canada, to be that superstar attacking player, and that's what he's going to be. This is not a case anymore of coach versus player. It is too close to a massive tournament, and he's going to get. It is clear now what he wants. So how do we get the best out of it? I think we saw the ups and downs of it. I said the same today. I think AGR, you said the same in yours. Charlie, you wrote the same. Josh too. What can he? I mean, yes, occasionally he can look like a player that's doing too much. No, he held the ball up today one time. Buchanan's waving on the left-hand side, getting madder and madder, and frustrated with him, and waves his hand at him when he didn't get the ball. So we're going to see those moments. No, but in that free role, what would you like to see him become, Charlie? A little bit more posed, or is it just be the free role that you can be?
Yeah, I think that you don't want to do anything to restrict him from being Alphonso Davies and being the star of this team, because it's clear that that's what he wants to do. He obviously isn't the star of the team at Bayern Munich, so every time he comes into Canada camp, he's very motivated to kind of play that role and have that responsibility to, at moments of certain games, carry the team. I think you're going to want. He maybe looks a little bit better this game if the final ball or the final product in the box is better from some of his teammates or things like that. But there are moments where he doesn't make the pass, or even moments where he did make the pass when maybe should have taken the shot himself. So I think there's actually kind of progress for him to make there. The thing that I kind of wanted to bring up with Davies that is maybe a bit of a nitpick, but it's very specific. I'm not convinced he should be taking set pieces for this team. A lot of those corner deliveries, I know that you maybe want a left footer on some of those for the in-swinger. They weren't very good from him. And I mean, he doesn't really take set pieces at club level. He hasn't taken set pieces really for a while now. He's taken a few of them with Canada, but it's never really been an area of danger for him. And I think maybe you want him on the pitch higher up if he can maybe get touched on the ball or something. So that's a specific one that maybe you look at. But, you know, other than that, I think he was very lively today. And again, it's just kind of getting more comfortable with knowing when to be the guy and when to trust that there's a lot of other talented players on the pitch beside you as well, right?
Yeah, totally. Josh?
If I'm Alphonso Davies in terms of understanding, you know, time and space, if I'm Alphonso Davies, I spend the next 6 weeks following Thomas Muller and training in a way that I never have before. And I mean that because so now we know what Alphonso Davies is going to be. He's going to be an attacking player that is kind of given creative license by John Herdman in a way no other player will get, right? Who's one of the best players, who's one of the best forwards still in the world at kind of understanding where to be at the right time. And, you know, who also has creative license when he's on the pitch? It's Thomas Muller. And I think Alphonso Davies has a great opportunity here to kind of study him a little bit more, talk to him a little bit more, and understand how do I, you know, be at my most effective in that free role. I think there were moments for me with Alphonso Davies when it was pretty clear that some of the through balls he played, I think he was kind of anticipating, well, how would a Bayern forward react to this? And I mean that. And sometimes his balls just looked a little bit, his through balls just looked a little bit too fast for some of his Canadian forwards at times. So I think, you know, it's going to come. And again, I'm going to continue to bet on Alphonso Davies having a breakout game at the World Cup. It just depends who it's against. But yeah, I really think it would be interesting. I know Thomas Muller is a character, and we know Alphonso Davies is a character. I think they probably have a lot more in common than they think. And I think it would be advantageous to Alphonso and to John Herdman and the rest of the team for him to kind of set up shop and, you know, do some Thomas Muller one-on-one for the next 6 weeks, because again, these are two players that need to understand time and space, and Muller's, you know, one of the best at it.
Alex, tactically, you got a great brain. What do you think of that front three and how they working together?
I mean, it's very fluid. That's certainly for sure. With the way David just and Larin, they're not traditional strikers. I think we know that at this point. They love to drop, they love to interconnect, and yeah, it's been fascinating to see how Davies has adjusted to that, because it always has felt like since the Whitecaps, you know, Davies' side of his game has always been what can he do on the ball, and you know, for him it was take the ball, go in a very straight line and burst up the pitch. And I think, you know, and we see it for Bayern, it works very well when you have a team that has so much talent in the middle. We talk about Muller, you see guys like Musiala, Sane, Coleman, you could get dizzy all day just talking about that talent. It allows you space to just burst down the wide channels. Whereas Davies now with Canada, the challenge is learning to, you know, deal with, you're going to have the ball a lot in the middle and you're going to have 4 or 5 guys on you. So how do you know, understand and, you know, I guess like Thomas Muller would say, interpret the space around you. So it's going to be interesting to see how he interacts, just because it appears of that 3, he's going to be the one who gets the ball more. It's going to be, okay, David is also going to drop deep. And then from there, Laren's going to be the guy kind of roaming the final third. So for Davies, what I want to see him in that position is, what does he do on the ball? How does he balance his decision-making? You know, when does he make the passes? Because you're seeing flashes of it. I think in a game like this where he had 6 key passes, like that's no joke for an attacking midfielder to have 6 key passes in a game where you're like, that was an okay game from Alphonso Davies. Like if that's his okay game, you're going to be very all right when you got guys, you know, putting some of those chances away. So it's just, how can you navigate the middle? How can you balance? You know, the dribbling's always going to be there. The speed's always going to be there. You know that. But if he can be a guy that really, because he takes away attention. Like when you have 4 or 5 guys, you think, okay, that surely means a Buchanan's open on the pitch. That means a David, the way he finds space, is open on the pitch. As long as he can continue to find that balance in his game, it's going to be exciting to see where he goes. So it'll be good to see. I think he has, you know, immense potential long-term to develop into a player centrally for maybe even club, definitely for country. So if he can kind of just learn those actions of being on the ball. I think one thing that's also noticeable is when you're on the wing, you kind of can always look one way just because you're always looking inside. Whereas in the middle, you have to get used to pivoting your head. And that's also something that he's starting to wrap his head around. So like Josh mentions, I think that's a great shout to spend time with Thomas Muller. Maybe he kind of doubles it where he spends half his day talking to Muller about space, and then he spends half his day talking to Musiala about what to do on the ball, because that guy is also someone who on the ball can do a lot of great things from a 10 position, and I'm sure he'll figure things out through that.
Yeah, what I like about him essentially is that without Kay in midfield, you have another left footer that opens the balls up a little bit more and has that vision to go left. Sometimes it can get a little bit too the other way, with right footers always kind of looking that way. So he has the ability to stretch the ball a little bit, stretch the game that way, and open up the play. The other factor that hasn't been discussed about all this is that those three players never really played in this position before. They didn't play that way in World Cup qualifying as a three ever. They only played one game together from the start like that. So it'd be interesting, because if Buchanan gets red hot in the next month, look out what's going to happen then. And there's a real chance. That's why when I did my boards today with Scott Arfield, there's a real chance that you could see, why couldn't you see maybe Buchanan coming in for Larry, something like that. And you just, you put Buchanan and Davies, and then you have David as that false nine kind of dropping in, and they just go. There's lots of different things you could do with that front three. But this has been my front three, Charlie, AGR, and Josh Cloak. I can't thank you guys enough. It's been fantastic. We could talk all night, and we probably will. We'll do this again before Qatar. Before we let you go and bring Mitchell back in, Josh, again, the Voyager's available as of the 4th. Or probably can order it now. And you've got a couple of big events coming up in the next week, my friend, as well. Explain.
Yeah, October 1st, just ahead of the York United Forge FC game in beautiful Hamilton, just down the street from where I live, at Bernie's Tavern, 3 p.m. We're gathering with Nico Giantsopoulos of York United and Kostas Myrniotis, Forge FC's football director. We're going to gather for a conversation with a lot of Forge FC fans. And then, just ahead of a march from Bernie's Tavern, which is just down the street from Tim Hortons Field to the stadium for the game. So that Saturday afternoon, books will be available for sale there. And then October 4th at the Rivoli in Toronto, kind of an old school footy talks event with some of our friends, Ali Platt, Peter Galindo, and obviously James Sharman, kind of carrying the load there. But again, books will be for sale there. I'll be doing readings at both. And I would really like the opportunity to meet, fans, Canadian men's national team fans, because KJ, you're right. We're in a position now where, people can talk about the men's national team in a way they never have before. I mean, I think these conversations used to be confined to kind of dark corners of parties when you would maybe meet someone that thought about the men's national team the way that a lot of us now do. So it's great to kind of have these conversations, more out in the open, because we're talking about the 24th and 25th, guys on the World Cup roster, which is a dream for a lot of people. So I would love to meet some fans out there and get some books in the hands of people who want them. So yeah, October 1st and 4th. All the details are on my Twitter feed. And yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're right. No longer the dark alleys. Are you telling us the nerds have become the cool kids? I don't know. We'll see. Charles, maybe you guys. I'll always be a nerd. I'll still talking about, lots of nerd stuff. But you guys could be the cool kids. Josh is a cool kid, and he's got an amazing book. And this is going to be a Bible for many years to come. That's what I love about it. That it will always be written right before the World Cup this year when they made it. And it's a fantastic story. Congratulations, my friend. So glad you got it out. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate that.
We appreciate you. Thanks again, Josh Cloak of The Athletic. Let's bring in Mitchell Tierney, who we see in the background, who's typing away his analysis piece. We can bring AGR back unless AGR's gone. Did AGR leave us there? We can bring him in as well. Yeah, here he is. Mitchell, let's get your packs open already. Let's open some packs.
All right.
We've already done it already.
He was turning way too wide when he came in. I'm really worried that he's already opened it here.
Has he already opened them already? Has he got some... You've been opening packs all week and you've been sliding.
Yeah, exactly.
He's opened 6. He's just picking a good one.
Here we'll tell you that I haven't been. We're starting with Keisha Fuller from Costa Rica, who did actually play against Pacific recently for Herediano. So there's a little CPL connection there. We got a Leicester player here. Timothy Castagna.
I don't know about you guys. I'm sick of these Belgians.
Another Belgian, yeah.
This show has been just taken over by Belgians. Don't like it.
Okay, here's not a bad one. Rodrigo De Paul.
Oh, that's good.
Messi's bodyguard.
Don't mind that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He can make my team. Oh yeah, of course. We got the Canadian, Mark Anthony K.
Look at this
Always
guy. Every time he pulls Canada play.
3 in a row.
Every time.
And then recent Canadian opponent, Kareem Boudieff of Qatar.
There you go.
Probably not making my team. Let's
Okay.
get second pack here.
Get the second pack open. Charlie, you got your 5-a-side team ready, or what do you think? You getting it prepared?
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm definitely at least.
Oh, we lost. That was Charlie. Just went on a little rant there. We
What
lost
was
you there
that?
for a second, but that was fun. We may have lost Charlie's audio.
Charlie's
for a
got the
second.
turntables going over there.
I think we've lost his audio, so we're just taking him. We're taking him out the show for him to figure it out. But,
Let me back in.
oh, he's back. There you go.
Am I
But
back?
a reminder,
Can't get rid of me.
soccercast.ca if you want to get these World Cup stickers. Get your albums filled up. We're gonna have a lot of fun over the next few weeks doing this. Mitchell, you got your second pack there.
I do, yeah. Starting with Checo Kiate. Nice little ad there.
Nice. You guys have got some good
Online.
midfielders coming
Yeah,
up
yeah.
here. Some real toughness.
Ujo Hwang of South Korea.
Okay.
Oh, man, this is a good one. Brazil, Richarlison.
He scored today.
All
yeah,
right.
we'll get that.
There you go.
A blue Hugo Lloris.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Perfect.
Don't mind that.
There you go.
I'm not sure about his footwork in a 5-a-side. I think he's maybe a mare at some
There you
point.
go.
But then Marcos Llorente. So I think I can make a great team here.
There you go. Get your stickers out and make a team. You know what else they sent me? They sent me a couple of these packs. These Adrenaline XLs. So this is actually, these are cards. So I'm gonna get. I think, to be honest, you're gonna get better players in these. So I'm not gonna try and take my cards and beat your stickers. But let's just see who we get here straight away. Oh, you're talking Llorente, right there.
There you go.
There you go.
Immediately,
Got him.
right out of the box.
That's right out there. I got some DeAndre Yedlin. That's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good one. No, maybe not. I did pull DeAndre Yedlin actually in the stickers when I did the thing with Fonzie. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
I remember pulling him. That was fun.
I remember
we
him
got
marking him.
Martin Braithwaite. There you go.
Oh.
Peruvian Christian Cueva. Yeah, there you go. Oh, nice. There we go. Tajon Buchanan.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
There
There you go.
So you got a Canadian connection. And then, we got a fan's favorite of Jordi Alba. There you go, Spanish connection. So there you go. I got some cards, but yeah, check them out. There's lots of World Cup stickers around, and this show is wrapping up. So let's see your 5-a-side teams. Charlie, by the way, Benedict, you're our social guy. You take care of everything at our place. Who won the vote last week? Whose team?
Me.
Well, Charlie tells your team. I'll
count.
find it.
It was definitely
No,
not
it wasn't
Charlie.
me or Charlie.
It was
It was
definitely
me.
not Charlie. Was it you, Benedict?
Someone make their team and I'll find it.
Yeah.
All
it
right,
was
Ben can go look for it, and I'll give you guys my team.
Let's go.
'Cause I think I got it. I've got Ter Stegen in goal.
Okay.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 2 defenders. I'm gonna go with Yannick Vestergaard.
Okay.
That's for you, Mitchell. And Pau Torres. Just a
Nice.
class.
All right.
Class.
This is looking like a good team.
In midfield, I think I'm gonna have to go with Yuri Tielemans.
Yeah.
That's another Leicester.
I like this team already.
I think Archer in the chat told me to
You
burn
got
my
Mitch's vote.
Archer in the chat told me to burn my Gregor's Krychowiak sticker.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that you might be or have some Polish ancestry that might suggest that you're not a huge fan of his, but I will leave him out.
Maybe he's a
I'll go
West
with
Brom
that.
fan.
Or
Who knows?
that would be even more unfortunate. I'm going to put Timo Werner right up there at the top. He's going to hopefully hit the net and not put it 6 feet over the net.
That's a tough team to beat.
That's a
tough
good team.
to
That's a
beat.
much better team than last week.
It is. AGR, you got.
All right, let's go for it. So we'll start in goal. I decided to have a goalkeeper again, Frederick Ronau. Surprise, he's Union Berlin's goalkeeper, and they're right now the darlings of Europe. So
They're
I'll
doing
certainly
great.
take that.
Yeah, have fun.
So no complaints for me. Then I'm going to go back to Denzel Dumfries. You can get forward. He's quality on the ball. And then, of course, Teo Hernandez.
Nice.
A lot of quality in that left boot of his. And that leads nicely to my holding midfielder of Calvin Phillips, Man City player. You know, you're going to get a lot of possession there between those 4 guys. Really, Berlin as well plays with the ball. And then we got my captain, my muse, my artist, Sadio Mane. He's going to do all the dirty work.
It's a good team. It's a good team. Thomas in the chat thinks Charlie's going to win this leg. But I don't know.
like
AGR might battle away. Benedict, do we have a
little
winner
worried.
from last week?
You do. Team Erickson, that was my team, had 40% of the vote.
Dominant.
Team Alistair Johnston was Mitch's team. He had 35% of the vote.
Oh,
okay.
Coming third was Team Daniil Henry. That was Alex, and that was 16%. And then Charlie, Team Aldevareld, came in with 9%.
All right,
Who
Charlie.
voted for me?
How many accounts do you have?
Sorry,
Joe?
in fact, Charlie, you should have got relegated, really, but we'll give you another chance. If you come last again this
put
week,
it in the
you're
family
done.
group chat.
Yeah. Oh my God. Who voted for me, man?
Yeah, there you go. Mitchell, let's see your team. We'll go with Benedict last because he's the reigning champ.
Yeah, so I'll also go for a goalkeeper. Have to have Hugo Lloris in there.
Yeah.
We'll go for a diamond. We'll have Castagna at the back. We'll just hold things down there.
Five-a-side diamond. Wow, let's go.
Wow.
Double midfield of Mark Anthony Kay and Marco Sorrente.
Okay, that's
Not
good.
bad.
We're going Richarlison up top.
Oh, that's a pretty good team as well. Richarlison's going to have to score a lot of goals, but yeah, that's a pretty good team. I like it. I like all these teams. Benedict, I think you might not win this week. Let's see your 5.
Well, I decided to open a third pack, and once again, the third pack provided 3 of my players.
Oh, what is this?
Cheater.
Yeah, no wonder he's
All I'll
winning.
say,
This is
I
fixed.
opened a third pack for fun, just for fun. I got this guy. He's nowhere near my team, so I'm just saying.
Well, that's your decision.
Benedict, let's go with your rigged 3. Let's go. Who's got your team?
So returning to my team from the first 2 packs are Kingsley Coman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he playing in net?
Well, I've decided to go for a 2-0-3 formation. No goalkeeper.
That classic.
This is a proper 5-a-side
This
team.
book's going to be written in this, inverting the pyramid 2, the 203. Let's
We need
go.
to get Josh Cloak back here.
Yeah.
Eden Hazard obviously has to return to the team as well.
Okay.
I usually don't want any more Belgians, Christian.
Yeah,
but I have
do not.
got.
Come on.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Why?
We have a little West Ham loving this squad, which I like as well. Got Thilo Kehrer.
Okay. Did you open like 15 packs or something?
Yeah, what is this?
I'll open a third pack and
Yeah, let me
get
just
another
get up my
some Canadian
file.
love. Come on, Miller.
Oh, there you go.
Come on.
Charlie's disgusted with the cheat that Benedict is just.
I've been robbed. I've been robbed.
Look at.
Let me get these guys in.
AGR pulled all these stars from his third pack. By the way, the next guy to pull a Belgian is fired from the show. Had enough.
Wow.
Right. You're done. Out. Get out of the show. I just thought you guys would have had more Belgians than anybody.
We're gonna have
We
to
got the whole
hear
team
about
at this
so many
point.
more Belgians heading up to November 23rd, and I think we've had enough of them for now.
We have had enough of them. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, we're going to put it in the chat. Charlie's tough 5, AGR's returning 5, Mitchell's Leicester 5, and the cheats from the roads. All roads leads to cheating. There we go. And on that bombshell, we'll say goodnight to everybody. We've been on far too long, but you picked the night with us. We can't thank you enough. Thanks to these fine folks here. Thanks to Joshua Cloak. And a reminder, his great book is The Voyagers. I'm privileged to have one of it right here. And it's been, a great turn reader. It really is a page reader for me every day. Next week we'll be back as we, open some more stickers, I suppose. And then maybe talk a little CPL in between the stickers. Benedict may be out of packs by then, considering his team. But the rest of us, we're going to open packs. Till then, God bless everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the games. And we'll chat with you soon.
To be fair to the Cap supporters, they did a great job making the 3-hour trek to the provincial capital to see the final El Clasico this season. Look at this from Ottawa! Are you kidding me? Baloo Tabla!
What a finish that was.
An overhead kick from outside the box, Jimmy. The audacity from Baloo. That is a statement goal very early in this match.
Tommy Wilton Jr. a totalisé 106 matchs en toute compétition. Attention, bien frappé, oh quel but! Baloo Tabla, magnifique! Baloo Tabla, incroyable! Quelle frappe! Et encore une fois, pour la deuxième fois de suite, Atletico Ottawa mène à l'extérieur en Alberta. Quelle passe et quelle frappe, messieurs, dames!